So hi, welcome to the Pin to the Wind knitting podcast. My name's Hannah, I'm a knitter in the west of Scotland, like Central Belt, west of Glasgow. And I haven't made one of these in a year and a half, but let's just breeze past that and I'll just talk about knitting because I've decided that if I don't do it now, I'm just going to put it off again. I've moved house and various other reasons, which is why there was the delay. But one good thing about the delay is it means I've done a lot of knitting, so I have quite a lot to talk about. Although saying that, one of the consequences of moving house is that I only know where about like 30% of my stuff is. It's all here somewhere. But yeah, I've not got everything that I've knitted in the last year and a half with me, but I have a few things that I was thinking are hopefully interesting. So yeah, I'll talk about those. I have this as a finished object, I have a pair of socks as a finished object, and I've got my main whip with me in bags here. My phone, which I'm filming this on, is also currently just propped up on a windowsill, and out there is a storm. So I'm watching the trees sway, and there might be some ambient storm background noise for this episode, which might be quite nice. I don't know. It's where I am, it's a yellow warning storm right now, but I think most of Scotland has an amber warning, which is obviously a little bit worse. And it's Shetland, so it's 3rd of October, it's Shetland Will Week right now, and I've been reading that a few people might end up with some bonus Will Week days because I think the transport is getting a little bit dodgy at this point. So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, last time I made one of these, I had just started knitting this, I think. I was looking back. So this is, it's a heavily modified version of a Burgos vest. So the original version has no sleeves, but it's by Rosa Pomar, like of the Retrosaria Rosa Pomar shop. When I'm watching these kind of podcasts, I always find it difficult to understand people's accents. So if my accent is causing you trouble, I will put all of the details in the description of the yarn and all those kind of things. So yeah, this is the Burgos vest. I made it out of the Rosedean Ryelands DK, which meant I was way off gauge, and I changed which size I was doing. I had a couple of attempts to find the right one for me because I didn't do the maths, I just guessed and it didn't work out the first time. So I did it off gauge, and it's not really the pattern because it's also got sleeves, but all of my notes are on Ravelry, and I think a couple of people have used those notes to do a version with sleeves, so hopefully that's useful for some people. I mean, really, like, I already had the pattern, so I did consider making it. You can kind of see the join quite obviously there actually. So I considered just making the vest, but once I'd done it, I was like, I basically realised that I never wear vests, so I put sleeves on. I finished this a while ago, like many months ago. I think I was knitting on it last summer, and I have worn this so much. Like, I wear it pretty much whenever I go to work, in the office, because we're hybrid at the moment, and also just around the house because it's so versatile. I think when I was knitting it, to me, like, it was just like a school cardigan, because the uniforms here, we have great cardigans. So this might be a little bit jumpy because I keep having to sort out my phone. But yeah, I think basically for me, neutrals are just getting a lot more wear. I used to knit a lot of like Icelandic jumpers, which were quite colourful, which I still love and do wear, but just not half as much as I wear stuff like this. So one of my aims for knitting going forwards, not with everything, but for some things, is just to have stuff that's actually going to be properly part of my wardrobe. Because I think I'm quite a process-driven knitter, but I would obviously like to also get the wear out of the products. So this is definitely fitting the bill for that. I'd say because I've worn it so much, it's given me a good opportunity to test how the yarn wears. So this does pill, but I have not used a debobbler on this. I actually bought, maybe last week, like one of the Philips electronic debobblers, which is called a fabric shaver, which kind of freaked me out because I don't like the idea of really putting a machine on my knits. I actually bought it to try and debobble some like purchased sports hiking type clothes that I have. I'm going to try it on that and then maybe on my knitwear in the future, but I haven't done that yet. And I'd say that although it has pills, it's not, you can see it a little bit there, that's probably the worst area. It's nothing that would stop me wearing it. I don't think it's noticeable at all. So definitely a very hard wearing yarn, and it was great to work with. So yeah, this is now my cozy everyday cardigan, and I'm very glad of that. The only other detail maybe to mention is that these buttons, my hair is also sticking to it, but so these buttons, which are sort of, I forget what that's called, it's a tortoise shell, those kind of buttons, I really love them, and I think they sit off the cardigan really nicely. I actually bought them a couple of years ago when I went to Shetland Wool Week from the Shetland Designer shop. I think it's in Cunningsborough on Shetland, which was a lovely experience. So I'd been at a class in the morning and I was passing through in the afternoon, and I stopped in at the shop, which I think it's Wilma Malcolmson's shop, and it was beautiful. I bought my dad a jumper there that they'd machine knit and then hand finished. I gave it to him for his birthday, picked up some buttons for myself. They had a display of all of the different, or some of the different designs that they've used over the years, alongside reference photographs where the colour inspiration came from. Really lovely experience, and I believe that shop is now closed, and I think Terry Malcolmson, who is the granddaughter of the founder, I want to say, she has set up the Shetland Designer Legacy Project, which looks really interesting. She has a Patreon, which I haven't joined yet, but I'm planning to at some point. I'm very curious what's going on, to look at the history of the Shetland Designer shop and the designs that they made and all of the amazing knitwear that's ended up all over the world. So I really loved it. The buttons I have come from there, and yeah, so I feel like even though it's a very plain cardigan, it holds meaning for me, and yeah, that makes me happy when I wear it, which is often. So my other finished object is also something, wow, the storm's really getting going. So my other finished object is also something that I finished quite a long time ago. It is this pair of quite plain socks, which I promise have a more interesting story than maybe would appear at first glance. So these socks, there's no real pattern. I usually use the sock recipe by Winwick Mum on Ravelry, and again there's Ravelry projects for these if anyone's curious of all the details. So it's just a really basic, I can't remember exactly how many I cast on, but I get some Ravelry. But the only real difference that I make to that recipe is that I did a 3x1 rib, and I generally do that for socks, so all the way around the cuff and then like across the top of this part of the foot, just because I think it grips a little bit nicer. I actually don't think it looks as nice, especially when the sock isn't on. I think it makes it look a little bit funny, but it does fit better when it's comfier, so that's what I'm prioritising in these situations. So the yarn from this is from a Japanese brand, I think called Mominoki, and it is their ramie silk. So it doesn't obviously feel like silk cloth, but it does feel very smooth, I'd say, and feels quite luxurious. Like, it's a very nice, but it's also warm. It's not cool like cotton at all. It still feels, I was going to say woolly, it doesn't feel woolly, but it feels not like cotton yarn, not like synthetic yarn. It still has a sort of nice luxury feel to it. And the colourway is Milk Tea, which I like the name of. So I bought that yarn, I bought it online from Europe, but I bought it in advance of a trip to Japan, which I was super lucky to go on last year. I must have got home just over a year ago now, so this is quite an old FO. So I wanted a little project to knit as I was going around, because I was going to Japan to walk some of the Nakasendo Way, which is, it's not really a continuous trail anymore, but it's kind of a long distance walking trail, which used to be a road that like samurai would use to get between different parts of the empire. So I'm going to fact check all this before I upload this, just in case that's nonsense, but that was my memory of all of the very detailed information that was shared with me about it. So yeah, when I was on the walk, there's obviously a lot of kind of stopping for rests and stuff like that, so I wanted something to take with me. And also I did some of it on trains, because having went all the way to Japan, we did kind of like hang about a little bit and take trains afterwards to visit different cities. So it was really great for that, because it was a very compact project, and I just did it on my very small circumference circulars, which are from CNet, which I think is also actually a Japanese brand. So yeah, I had notions. I took some video of these in progress when I was in Japan, and I had notions of making I guess it would essentially be a project vlog, but not really, but notions of making a video of all those little clips of these being knitted as I walked around Japan. So it's like you're walking a long distance and then you're making socks, so there's like a present for your feet at the end of the walk. And I have a lot of pictures, so I could put it together at some point, but I haven't done that because life has been quite busy with the house move and all that. But yeah, really happy with these, although I have not worn them much. I only recently-ish finished them, so I got very close to finishing. I had like this much left when I left Japan, and then when I came home, in all the chaos of everything else, I didn't touch them for ages. But now that the weather is turning again and it's definitely getting colder, I'm excited to wear them. And also this house that I've moved to is an older house, which means it's much colder than the kind of new build that I was used to, so I'm wearing my woolen socks all of the time. So I'm really happy with how they turned out, but I can maybe report back in the future about how they've worn. I would say that one maybe older IFO that it's worth mentioning, just because I happen to be wearing them, are the socks that I'm wearing now that I'm wearing a lot more knitted socks around the house. So a couple of years ago when I went to Shetland Wool Week, it must have been 2023, but in that Shetland Wool Week they were launching their 5-ply yarn, which, if I recall correctly, is worsted spun at quite a tight gauge. So it's 100% wool. It's not technically sock yarn, but those facts about the yarn made me think that it might be good for socks. So I'm going to take off one of my socks and show you instead of trying to contort my leg upwards. Basically, I got 3 balls, and the first thing I made was this pair of socks, which is very much the same sock recipe with the same modification as the other ones that I've just finished, except in a thicker yarn, because, well, yeah, in a little bit of a thicker yarn, because this 5-ply is a bit thicker. So 100% wool. I have not depilled these. You can see here there's a couple of pills, but they've worn crazy well. I mean, I've worn them a few times in shoes, not loads. Generally, I'm wearing them inside like house slippers that I just wear indoors, which means that they're getting rubbed across here, and obviously underneath, but they're not fully enclosed in shoes. But these are so warm, they hold heat so well, that I've barely had them off the last month or so as it started to get colder, and I think they're going to be a staple as we go through the winter. Because obviously I had a lot of leftovers from the 3 colours that I had, I did start making like a striped pair at some point when I had like a long train journey, and I need to find that because I can't remember how far I got or anything. I haven't seen that project since moving house. So, but as I say, it'll be here somewhere. And the reason I haven't fully unpacked all my knitting projects is that the room where I want to set up all my knitting stuff, I want to like paint it before I put my bookshelves in there, and I haven't got around to painting it, so which means I can't unpack the boxes because I can't put the bookshelves like the dependencies or whatever. Like in work we always talk about like the critical path, that I've not successfully made it through the critical path for unpacking my knitting stuff. But yeah, definitely would highly recommend this yarn for socks, especially if they're indoor socks, because for me it's worked really well. I know that Mondim by Rosa Pomar is another 100% wool that people use for socks, and I've heard very mixed reviews about that for socks. And I would say years ago I made a pair of socks with that yarn and I found that it pilled loads. So I was a little bit concerned that the same was going to happen here, especially because they don't market it as sock yarn, or at least they weren't at that point. I don't know if it's changed now because it's been out for a couple of years and it's obviously a bit more tested. But yeah, not a bad word to say about this. They're going to put it back on because the foot that has it off is actually significantly colder than the one that has it on. But yeah, they're great, and I have high hopes for these, that they might wear even you know, like 80% as well as my Shetland ones. That would be great. So yeah, those were the finished objects I have access to right now. I also, last Christmas I went through a phase of making a lot of scrunchies, So I gave some for gifts and I used some for myself. They were great little projects, don't know where they are. I will find them soon. But the project that I was guarding very closely through the house move is my main whip at the moment. So this is a self-drafted pattern. It's going to be a drop shoulder jumper. And so the main colour is this Jamieson and Shetland cone. I got it when I was at Wool Week. It was a 500 gram cone. I've knitted maybe 3/4 of a jumper and I feel like it's not gone down even a little bit. So it might be an endless cone. Do I have the exact colour? Yes, I do. It was shade 2, which I think is basically like fawn. And yeah, it was definitely a 500 gram cone, it says there. My memory is that this was less than 30 quid. I think it was 20 something. So crazy good value, because I think that's maybe 2 jumpers worth there. So that's the main colour of this drop shoulder. Then the detail is going to be relatively simple, but along the bottom, it's a bit bunched up at the minute, but these are squares. So these are squares of all different special bits of yarn that I picked up in Shetland. So I've been calling it my Shetland Squares jumper. There you go, if I stretch it out like that and when I block it, you can see how it's going to look. So for the colours, let's see if I can remember. I think the main colour is Jamieson's of Shetland shade 2. This dark brown and the teal and the orange and the kind of grey colour. And I think that's why I think this is all from, I'm going to say Aister oo, could be Aister oo. I feel like even though I'm from Scotland, I'm from the Central Belt in the west, which is quite far away from Shetland, and I feel like I'm not great at pronouncing the Shetland things. So I will get a label which has the spelling. So these are all the labels for all the colours. I will put all the names of the colours in the description. But it is this brand, which I would pronounce as Aister oo. And I've just realised that I'm using my selfie camera, so I'll probably flip it. But anyway, I'll put the name in the description. So yeah, I really loved all those colours. When I bought them, there was, close to where I was staying in Shetland, there was a farm shop which had shut down, but it was open for Wool Week and the Aister had all their yarn set up there. I originally got all these colours because I wanted to make, there was like a little scarf shawl thing that had like different squares that all had different kind of flowers in it. It was not the pressed flower shawl, it was something else, can't remember, but anyway I decided not to make that, but I had all these beautiful colours in small quantities, so this was my solution for that. That was most of the colours, and then this kind of mustard yellow colour and then this green, they were the most special bits of yarn that I brought back from Shetland. So they were hand spun and hand dyed by Elizabeth Johnston, who I went to her spinning class and I'm gonna drop it, and really enjoyed it. And I'd watched a few videos and stuff, and I don't know if it was interviews or it was just technique videos. I think she also has a video of doing fingers for gloves, which is now how I do fingers for gloves. So when I was at her class, I asked if she had any handspun for sale, and she advised that she was trying to save it all for the fair, I guess, which is at the end of Wool Week at the high school in Lanark. So I went when that opened and made a beeline straight for her stall and got myself a little bit of handspun. So handspun, hand dyed. I think they were actually both dyed with onion skins, is that right? And one was maybe modified. They had very tiny labels on them. Let me find the other one, which explained what they were dyed with. The other one actually might not be in here. It might be in a separate bag. This is also, I discovered this myself when I moved house. Oh no, there it is there. I love to put things in little bags and then forget what's in them and not look at them, because if it's in a bag in my head it's organised, but that's just not how it works. So I have these tiny bits. I do have a larger amount of a dark brown, which I think I might be able to get mitts out of, but yeah, I just had these little bits of hand spun, which compared to the like manufactured yarn, it's beautifully spun. It's 2-ply, It's very, very soft and very, very even. I don't know if it's possible to see the plying or anything if I hold it up like that, but it was so special and it took me a long time to figure out what to do with it. But I think this jumper is the right call. So I'm doing it fully in the round with steeks. So this is one of the underarm steeks, and then this is the neck. I have the neck steek here, and it looks a little bit funny right now, but once it's all kind of cut open, I'll basically put on a 2x2 rib neckline. I'm gonna try and do like one round of purl before I go into the ribbing, because I purchased a jumper from Jamieson and Smith and that's how the neckline is done, and I think it looks really nice. I think it's like a little bit of interest. And then I was toying with the idea of, after the ribbing, doing a little bit of stocking it so it curls slightly at the top before it goes into the rib. I'm not sure, I just feel like I want slightly more detail on the neckline. Then on the arms, so this is all going to be plain, and then before you get to the ribbing on the arms, I want to do a little bit more colour work. I'm not sure exactly what I want to do. I think I might just do like two lots of the squares, so I might just repeat these first two and leave it at that, so there's like a little detail at the collar. Is that collar? No, the cuff. I'm not totally sure, but I'm very happy with this. I'd say like the idea for this was perhaps obviously inspired by the Paul Clay sweater that I've seen a lot of people make. There is actually one of the ones I like the most is Maggie from the Woolly Thistle podcast and shop has a Paul Clay, which is like dark grey and then the squares up here. But I looked at that pattern and there's a couple of things which I didn't love. Like, I don't really love that kind of yoked construction. I find it doesn't fit me super well. I think partly my fault because I have bad posture, because I have a sedentary job where I sit on a laptop and kind of hunch over, and it means that yoked sweaters don't fit me that well. And I also just prefer the look of drop shoulder, and yeah, I obviously wanted the squares to be down the bottom, which would solve both the aesthetic and the kind of practical issues that I foresaw having with the Paul Clay sweater. And I'm so happy with how these colours worked out. I think especially because I did not purchase this yarn with the intention to do this kind of thing. I definitely purchased it with the intention to make that little flower pattern thing. So yeah, really good. I also bought jam from that little shop where I bought this wool. And for some reason I really like buying yarn where like it's not just a yarn shop, it's also a something else shop. I feel like, I don't know why I like that so much, but I like the notion of that. I mean, the yarn for this cardigan came from a croft where they also sell plants, so that's where I got my comfrey cuttings, and that's where the comfrey in my garden comes from. So I like that kind of association. I didn't knit much at all over the summer, but I've picked this up again now that it's autumn and I'm really enjoying it, so I'm hoping that I can finish it pretty quick now. I mean, it's just, I need to finish the top part, cut it all open, sleeves, neckline, done. So I'm really looking forward to that. But I think I still have enough left. I definitely have enough left of this. And I think I still have enough left of all the colours, including the special ones, to make like a hot water bottle cover version of this. The hot water bottle cover I use at the moment is a very nice one. It's from Seconds Cashmere, which is a little brand, I guess, company in this part of the world where they take old cashmere jumpers and cardigans and all that stuff and they repurpose them. So that's where my current one comes from. But I really like the idea of having also a knitted one. I made some years and years and years ago, but I either gave them away or don't have them anymore. So yeah, I really love that idea. So I think that might be one of my next projects. Or I might be bored by this by the time I do it on the sleeves as well. I might move on to something else. But I'm very happy to be working my way through my Shetland wool beak purchases 2 years on, because I purchased a lot because I took my car and filled it. So I'm trying to not buy much new yarn at all. The main exception to that over the time since I filmed last was new Lanark. So I knitted quite a lot with new Lanark yarn over the years, and very, very sadly that mill, well, so at the point where I I did make acquisitions, it looks like that mill was shutting down for good, and that the kind of museum part of the new Lanark World Heritage Site would remain open, but the spinning would stop. I know there's been a lot of work going on in the background to try and prevent that from happening, so I'm not 100% sure where it landed. I think the people or the person behind the Scottish Yarn Festival have got involved, so hopefully there's a more positive story now. But for a while it looked like it was just going to completely stop. And new Lanark yarn is one of my favourite yarns. I think it's spun on old equipment, so I think the tension, it's not loosely spun, but the tension doesn't feel so kind of harsh as some yarns can feel. It feels very nice, basically. It's a yarn that I very much like, and they do kind of DK Aran, I think they do chunky as well, but all of it. I mean, I knit a lot of Shetland for thinner gauges, but I really love the new Lanark stuff for anything that I want to be chunkier. So I did purchase some stuff from New Lanark. It was quite chaotic. One of my friends who I work with was also trying to purchase from them, and for both of us, our initial orders were cancelled and then they were reinstated, and we got slightly different colours, all of that stuff. I understand it's calmed down now, but yeah, I got some new Lanark stuff. And the other whip, which I'm working on, which I don't have with me, is Nordic Bloom by Caitlin Hunter. I will attempt to find either my whip or an older picture of it and insert it somewhere here. But that's the other thing I'm working on. So after I finish this, I want to finish that, and then after that, either hot water bottle cover or all bets are off because it's Christmas, and I might panic knit some gifts, which has been my style the last few years. But yeah, hopefully this was interesting. If you watched this far, I'm very keen to make more of these again because I just kind of fell out the way of it, but I did really enjoy it, and because it's autumn and there's a huge storm outside, it's definitely the season for sitting inside and knitting. So I'll leave you there and I will turn the camera around and show you some of this storm and what I've been watching the whole time I've been talking, because maybe it doesn't look that dramatic right now, but it's felt quite dramatic from this little spot. So thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye.